You ever have one of those moments where the entire room is laughing and you're the only one not in on the joke? That was me, holding a cracked wine glass at our anniversary dinner while my wife, Naomi, stood under string lights, telling a funny story about her husband's inability to be spontaneous. Her words, not mine. The room laughed. Forks clinked. Someone shouted, "Her guy," and Naomi gave a little wink. She was glowing, the center of attention, a natural performer. She'd always been good at that. Me? I was standing there holding cold chicken sauté and the weight of a marriage that had quietly rotted behind closed doors. When I excused myself and walked out the back door barefoot, nobody followed. I didn't make a scene. That's what she expected. A meltdown. A tantrum. Something loud and masculine and cliché. Instead, I disappeared into the night like a ghost in his own love story. I sat in my car. I didn't drive anywhere. I just sat, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. Then came the passenger door. It opened. Naomi slid in, all faux concern and perfume. "You embarrassed me," she said. I laughed. A dry, sandpaper sound. "You humiliated me in front of 30 people, I said, eyes fixed on the steering wheel. Her reply? "You were hovering, looking lost." I didn't know what else to do. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I went too far." Just more lines from her endless script. That's when it clicked. She didn't love me. She loved the idea of me, the safe bet, the quiet man who folds his socks, never forgets trash day, and says yes more than he should. But when the show needed spice, I became the throwaway joke. I didn't yell. I didn't hit anything. That's not my style. I just looked at her and said, "That's the problem, Naomi. You didn't expect me to feel anything at all." Then I walked. Again. Only this time, I wasn't walking away from the house. I was walking towards something. Something deliberate. Because when a man like me finally decides he's done, he doesn't just leave. He rewrites the ending. It was Dylan who told me. My brother-in-law. Naomi's sister's husband. Good guy. Quiet. The kind of man who notices things but rarely speaks unless you drag it out of him. That night, after the dinner disaster, he followed me outside while I was halfway down the walkway, coatless, breath fogging in the cold. "Marcus," he said. I turned. His face was pale. Not shocked pale, a guilty pale. Hands jammed in his coat pockets like he was trying to bury the truth along with them. "She crossed a line tonight," he said. I didn't speak. Just stared. Then he dropped it. "I saw her. Last week. With her ex." That sentence didn't explode. It didn't break me. It just settled. Like bricks sliding into place. Heavy. Obvious. Long overdue. "Where?" I asked. "Outside a hotel in Millbrook." They were holding hands. Laughing. I saw her kiss him before they walked inside. I didn't react. Not even a blink. I think that scared him more than if I'd started swinging. "Can you prove it?" I asked, voice low and steady. He nodded. I took photos. He fumbled for his phone, opened the gallery. First photo, Naomi, my wife, in her navy blazer, reaching for a man's hand as they exited a hotel. Timestamped. Thursday, 6:43 p.m. Right when she told me she was stuck at a client dinner. The next image stopped my breath. Her, in the passenger seat of his car, head tilted back in laughter. Not just laughing, beaming. That was the smile she used to wear for me. Before the dry dinners. Before the late meetings. Before I became the background music in her life. I handed his phone back. "Send them to me." He swallowed. What are you going to do?" I shook my head. "Not sure yet. But I'm not yelling. I'm not begging. I'm not playing her game." Dylan looked relieved. "I'll help. Whatever you need." And I believed him. Because what I had now was more than suspicion. More than gut instinct. I had evidence. I had motive. And soon, I'd have a plan. Back inside the house, I could hear laughter again. Naomi's voice, sharp and smug. Already back in the spotlight. She thought she'd turned me into a punchline. She had no idea I was already sharpening the setup for my own version of the joke. And when the punchline landed, it wouldn't be a laugh. It would be silence. She told me she was at a conference. Downtown. All-day marketing seminar. Something about branding, breakout sessions, free lunch. But here's the thing. Conferences don't come with hotel keycards. At least not the kind that shake in your hand while you're standing outside room 814, wondering if your whole life is about to change. I didn't knock. I didn't need to. The door opened with a soft click, and the first thing I noticed wasn't the bed, it was the warmth. The room still held their laughter like steam. Wine glasses on the nightstand. One half empty. One with lipstick I didn't recognize. She never wore that shade. But she wore it for him. And then the sound. Shower running. Muffled voices through the bathroom door. I stood there, in my own quiet hell, while my wife's voice floated past a curtain like a knife in silk. "I think he still has no clue," she said. He laughed. She laughed sharper. "He folds his socks," she added, giggling. "That's who I married. A sock folder." That was it. That was the punch in the chest. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even breathe too loud. I just observed. Because while Naomi thought she'd married someone safe, she forgot something critical. Safe doesn't mean soft. And quiet doesn't mean clueless. I stepped out before they saw me. Down the hallway. Out the back exit. Didn't cry. Didn't shake. Instead, I walked the block, then turned around and went right back inside, through the side entrance this time. Past laundry carts and bleach slick tiles. Slid the cart again. Room 814 welcomed me like a crime scene waiting for a detective. Bra on the chair. His shirt on the floor. A silver watch on the desk, the exact one she pointed out in a catalog 2 months ago, said, "That's sharp," not knowing I'd bookmarked it for our anniversary. I didn't get angry. I got clear. I looked out the 8th floor window. Streetlights flickering. And then I saw them. Again. Arm in arm. Out the front doors now. Not sneaking. Not hiding. They stopped at his car. She kissed him. Slow. Intentional. Familiar. I recorded it. Not because I needed to use it right away, but because I needed to remember what betrayal actually looks like when it stops pretending to be love. I didn't sleep that night. Naomi came home late, humming. She always hums when she feels invincible. A quiet, smug little tune, like her conscience was enjoying a cocktail. I was in bed pretending to sleep. She moved around the room softly, perfume still fresh, that unfamiliar one I'd smelled on the wine glass in room 814. She didn't speak. Didn't touch me. Just crawled into bed like she hadn't detonated everything between us hours earlier. And I let her. Because that's what you do when you're planning something. You let your enemy feel safe. In the morning, I made her coffee. 2 sugars, oat milk, 1 cinnamon stick. The same way I'd done every morning for years. I watched her from across the table, watched how she scrolled through her phone while sipping what I made with hands that didn't shake. She wore the sweatshirt I bought her on our 3rd anniversary. She smiled, even. Kissed my cheek before heading off to work. I didn't flinch this time. I had already begun erasing her. But quietly. See, that's the difference between rage and strategy. Rage demands attention. Strategy demands patience. And I had both. By the end of that week, I had my first piece, the backup phone. Months ago, I found it hidden under the bathroom sink, tucked in a makeup bag with no makeup in it. I didn't touch it then. Didn't ask. Didn't accuse. But I remembered. So that morning, once she left, I pulled it out again. Turned it on. No passcode. She wasn't stupid. She just thought I wouldn't look. And there it was. Not even hidden. Text from Jay. Voice notes. Photos. A laugh in every bubble. One message. He still thinks we're in a rough patch. It's like living with a ghost who does the laundry. That one landed. I was the ghost, apparently. I backed everything up. Moved it to a hidden, encrypted folder in the cloud she didn't know existed. I even renamed it something dull. Invoice Archive Q2. I replaced the phone exactly how I found it. Angle, zipper, everything. Because the goal wasn't to catch her. It was to watch her dig deeper. Week 2, I visited my sister Lauren. Lauren always saw through Naomi. Didn't even try to be polite about it. "She's been hollowing you out for years," she said when I told her everything. Like carving a pumpkin and smiling at the shell. I nodded. I didn't need validation. I needed backup. So I asked her one question. "Can I send a few things here?" "Mail, mostly." She didn't even blink. "You sending evidence or escape plans?" "Both," I said. She smirked. "Good. About time you stopped folding socks and started folding the whole damn tent." Week 3, I vanished. A little. Not physically. Not yet. But I started closing accounts. Opening new ones. I found a P.O. box in another town, registered under an alias and forwarded by an old friend from college who owed me a favor after a regrettable night involving tequila, a parking meter, and a minor city ordinance. I stopped using our joint email. Canceled subscriptions she always meant to pay me back for. And every night, I watched her lie. Lie with her smile. Lie with her client dinners. Lie with her sighs when I asked how work was. But I never confronted her. Because confrontation gives people something to push against. I gave her nothing. not even friction. Week 4, I started the real work, the rebrand. I updated my resume, reached out to old contacts, found a remote freelance gig doing exactly what I used to love before marriage turned passion into a paycheck. I joined a gym, not to bulk up, not for some revenge body cliche, just to move again. Feel my legs working beneath me, remember that I still had a spine. Then I bought a burner phone, same model as hers, loaded the evidence on it, labeled everything, dates, times, locations, transcripts from the voice notes, even a folder called What She Said About Me, just in case I forgot why I was doing all this. And then I came the dress. Not just any dress. A red one. Low cut. Elegant. The kind I hadn't seen her wear in years. She wore it for him. I know because her sister sent me a screenshot. Naomi. Laughing. Leaning into a man's chest. His hand gripping her waist like a purchase had just been finalized. The caption? She said yes. I dropped my phone. Literally. Let it hit the kitchen floor while the blender kept spinning and the dog barked at nothing in particular. She said yes, while still married to me. No divorce. No conversation. Just a new life already happening. And me? Still in the background, folding socks and buying oat milk. I didn't confront her that night either. She came home humming. Again. Maybe she thought she was getting away with it. Maybe she thought she'd break it to me gently when the time was right. But the time was already mine, and she had no idea what I'd been building. What I was about to dismantle carefully, methodically, like someone taking apart a house brick by brick, and mailing each one back with a note that read, "You started this." I once read that true revenge doesn't shout. It whispers. So I stopped raising my voice, stopped asking questions I already had answers to, and started preparing her absence from my life like a man laying tile, one deliberate square at a time. Naomi had no idea I'd been living in parallel. While she planned an engagement party behind my back, I planned an exit she wouldn't see coming. A clean one. No messy explosions. No scenes on the lawn. Just the slow disassembly of the world she thought was hers to control. Let's rewind 3 days. She made pancakes that morning. I remember because she never does unless she wants something. The kitchen smelled like vanilla and misdirection. She wore a loose t-shirt, humming again, same little tune. And she looked so casual, so friendly, I almost laughed into my coffee. Friendly like a neighbor, not a wife. Friendly like someone making peace before asking for a favor. And sure enough, it came. "I think we need a break," she said softly, not looking up from her plate. She might as well have said, "I'm done pretending to love you." I didn't flinch. "Okay," I said. She blinked. That wasn't the script. The scene was supposed to have tension, confusion, maybe a little begging. "Just temporary," she added quickly, testing me. I nodded like she'd told me it might rain. And then I did what no man is supposed to do in that moment. I left first. I had already packed a bag. Not a full suitcase. Just enough to disappear without looking like I was running. It was waiting by the door, zipped. Socks folded, of course. Because if you're going to leave, do it like a man who didn't panic. Do it like someone who knew this moment was coming the whole time. I checked into a cheap roadside motel about 40 minutes out of town. Not because I needed distance, but because I needed silence. The kind that hums. The kind you don't get when you share a space with a liar. And I'll tell you what no one warns you about. Silence, at first, feels worse than heartbreak. It's too honest. I lay on that motel bed staring at a popcorn ceiling that looked like a battlefield, trying to remember the last time she touched me like she meant it. I couldn't. And that, right there, was my liberation. Because if love fades into indifference, what are we even trying to save? By day 3, I stopped checking my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Not even a half-hearted, "Hope you're okay." Naomi had vanished with surgical precision. No apologies. No guilt. Just silence in return. But silence, I learned, is her real language. She weaponized it first. I just learned to speak it better. Day 5, I went back to the house. Briefly. She wasn't home. Probably with him, Rory, as I learned from her engagement invitation. The key still worked. That was her first mistake. Her second? Leaving 2 wine glasses on the counter. One had lipstick. A different shade this time. Bold. The kind she never wore when we were still real. And the third mistake? The envelope on the dresser. Embossed. Heavy. Cream-colored. Inside was the engagement invite she hadn't meant for me to see yet. Join us in celebrating the engagement of Tessa Marie Whitlock and Rory James Calder. Tessa. She wasn't even Naomi anymore. She'd already renamed herself for him. That wasn't just cheating. That was erasure. I stood in our bedroom holding that invitation like a crime scene photo. And then as she walked in, bag slung over her shoulder, hair freshly styled, smiling, like we were roommates who ran into each other by accident. When she saw the invite in my hand, her face didn't fall. It calibrated. "You weren't supposed to find that yet," she said calmly. I wanted to laugh or cry, but neither showed up. All I could manage was, "How long?" She shrugged. 8 months, give or take. 8 months while I bought her lemon bars. 8 months while I planned a weekend getaway. 8 months while I studied the dead look in her eyes and still told myself she was just tired. "Do you love him?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. Yes. That single syllable was the final stitch in the shroud. But it was also freedom. Because once someone hands you the truth that cleanly, no guilt, no apology, you know they're not the one breaking. You are. And broken men rebuild better than betrayed ones. That night, I slept in my truck. Again. Not because I didn't have a place to go, but because I wanted to sit with it. The full scope of what she'd done. The performance. The indifference. The replacement. I stared at the cracked windshield for hours. Then I took out the burner phone. Opened the folder. The photos. The texts. The time-stamped kisses. The voicemail of her saying he still thinks we're in a rough patch. And I began the process of gathering names. Friends. Family. Coworkers. Anyone who had ever smiled at our wedding photos or toasted us at dinner. And I thought, if this marriage was a story, I'm going to write the ending. And she's going to read it with the whole world watching. There's a kind of calm that only comes when you've lost everything. Not the frantic kind. Not the pacing the hallway, screaming into pillows kind. I mean the dead quiet, nothing left to bargain kind of calm. That's where I was. Not heartbroken. Not boiling. Just settled. Like the man in the heist movie who's already 3 moves ahead, watching the guards scramble on camera while sipping tea in another country. She thought I'd leave in a mess. Instead, I stayed just long enough to make one she wouldn't see coming. The first part was easy. Gather the audience. Tessa, Naomi, but let's stop pretending, had invited me to her parents' anniversary dinner the year before. So I had that list. Her family. Her coworkers. Some of our old mutuals who'd all quietly drifted toward her side during the rough patch. Then there were the wedding guests. Her engagement party invite didn't list them all, but I knew who they'd be. The curated cast of approval. The people she wanted to impress. That was the show. So I gave them a new script. I didn't send one message. I sent 37. Each person got a short, polite note. "Hey, I know Tessa's getting ready to celebrate her engagement this month. Before you RSVP, I thought you should see this. I won't be reaching out again. Just figured you'd want the full story. Attached were files. Organized. Dated. Labeled. Photos. Transcripts. Screenshots. The hotel. The texts. Her calling me the ghost who does laundry. Her mocking my folded socks while she undressed in a room I hadn't been invited to. Not bitterness. Not a rant. Just evidence. Truth doesn't need commentary. It just needs light. I expected fallout. What I didn't expect was how fast it started. By noon the next day, her sister Lorna messaged me. "Is this real?" I just replied, "You think I faked an entire affair and hotel surveillance timestamps for fun?" No reply. Then came the friends. Some went silent. Others responded with variations of, "I had no idea, and she told us you were cold, distant, checked out." I didn't correct them. They'd already seen the truth. But the best part? She didn't know yet. She still thought the stage was hers. Still thought she'd stroll into her engagement party wearing her red dress, introduce Rory as the hero, and talk vaguely about how her ex-husband just stopped trying. She didn't know that behind her, the audience had already turned their heads. And now, let's talk about the delivery. I had RSVP'd yes to the engagement party. Of course I had. She didn't notice because I did it through a dummy email, an old shared account we used for travel bookings. She never cleaned it out. Another oversight. The venue was at a small vineyard about 30 minutes out of town. Tasteful. Rustic. The kind of place with white string lights, mason jar centerpieces, and charcuterie boards arranged like artwork. I knew the layout. Knew the entrance, the service hallway, even the Bluetooth speaker setup. So I timed my arrival for exactly 6:50 p.m., 10 minutes before her toast. Dressed well. Gray suit. Black tie. Same one I wore to our wedding. I didn't walk in through the front. I came in through the back, past the waitstaff, into the control booth where the event manager usually preps slideshows and playlists. I waited until the lights dimmed, until Rory raised his glass, until she began her little speech. I never thought I'd find someone who truly sees me, she said. Oh, Tessa, you should have seen my face. She kept going, talking about fresh starts and letting go of the past. I gave her the respect of letting her finish. Let the crowd clap. Let her take her little sip of wine. Then the screen behind her flickered. Not with a slideshow. With my video. It started with the hotel hallway footage. Room 814. Her and Rory. Holding hands. Kissing. Timestamp 6 months before she asked for a break. Gasps. Murmurs. A wine glass cracked somewhere in the back row. Then the texts. A scrolling screen. He folds his socks. He's like living with a ghost who does laundry. Then her voice, her real voice. I hate how good you smell. I can't stop thinking about it. He still thinks we're just in a rough patch. The final image? The engagement invite, while still married to me. Then the screen went dark. No music. No closing slide. No, thank you. Just silence. The crowd turned like sunflowers toward shade. She didn't move. Not at first. Just stood there, eyes wide, face straining. Rory's arm dropped from around her waist. He stepped back, like she'd become radioactive. Someone in the back whispered, "Is this for real?" I stepped forward from the side of the room. Calm. Controlled. I didn't smile. Didn't speak. Just held up one simple document. Our marriage certificate. Filed. Stamped. Still legally binding. Then I said, softly, "Congratulations on your engagement." Just one small legal snag. And I walked out. No yelling. No gloating. Just, exit, stage left. She called 27 times over the next 2 days. I didn't answer. What was there to say? She thought I'd break. Instead, I gave her the ending she deserved. Public. Permanent. And painfully polite. After the party, everything went quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The stunned kind. Like after a building collapse. Just still in the air. People too shocked to cry. I didn't hear from Rory. Not directly. But a friend of a friend said he left the venue before dessert. Guess the catering didn't pair well with lies and legal entanglements. As for Naomi, sorry, Tessa, she showed up at my door 2 days later. No makeup. Hair pulled back like humility could be tied into a bun. I just want to talk, she said. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, on the other side of the wood, listening. She waited 10 minutes. Left without saying anything else. Not even, "I'm sorry." Which told me everything. Over the next few weeks, she began what I started calling the apology tour. Her sister told me she was calling friends, sending long texts, trying to explain how things spiraled. Funny how people start spiraling after they get caught. She posted a photo of a sunset with the caption, "Some things you don't realize until it's too late." Comments were limited. Likes were scarce. She even tried sending me a letter. It was handwritten. 8 pages. I read it once, folded it neatly, and slid it between 2 takeout menus in my junk drawer. Not out of sentiment. Just as a reminder. She talked about childhood wounds. Expectations. Fear. She never mentioned me by name until page 6. Not once did she say, "I lied," or "I cheated," or "I destroyed you." Just, I felt unseen. As if I'd turned invisible on my own. As if the decision to love someone else for 8 months before ending our marriage was something that happened to her, not something she did. That's the thing about people like her. They don't lie to hurt you. They lie to protect the story they tell about themselves. Once the legal papers were served, and yes, I filed first, Tessa stopped showing up. She didn't come to the hearing. Didn't fight for anything. I think she realized, finally, she'd run out of audience. No one left to applaud the excuses. No one left to blame. Our divorce was finalized in 28 days. Clean. Simple. She left with nothing but the furniture I didn't want. I let her have the coffee table, the wine glasses, even the slow cooker she used twice. Let her rebuild with tools from a life she didn't respect. I moved to a smaller place across town. 1 bedroom. Big windows. A kitchen that didn't whisper with ghosts. I bought new socks. Didn't fold them. Not because I was bitter. Because I didn't need to anymore. Months passed. I healed, quietly. You'd be amazed how much peace you can build in a space that doesn't echo with betrayal. One afternoon, I was at the park reading when I got a text. Blocked number. Just one sentence. "Do you hate me?" I stared at it for a long time. And then I typed my reply. Slowly. Carefully. "No. I just finally learned how to love myself more than someone who didn't. I had sinned, then blocked the number again. Not to be cruel, to be finished. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer and no regrets. Because I didn't need to ruin her. She ruined herself. I just handed everyone a flashlight.